Programming can be fun for many folks and it can be stressful for many different folks. As 10 plus years of experience in programming, I want to share few tips to make this process of learning programming joyful and stress-free. So the first tip for learning programming for beginners is don't learn with the wrong intent. Most of the folks learn programming with the intent of getting good marks or landing into a job. Yes, it is important for both marks and job. But see, programming is a very powerful skill and it requires patience and practice to learn it. Job and marks make you rush while you learn program, and rush means stressful. So if you learn programming with is a skill, okay, it will be more joyful. So the choice is yours. You want to learn programming in rush, in a stressful manner, or you want to learn this powerful skill with patience and practice. The second tip for learning programming for beginners is don't learn multiple language. Learn only one language. It can be C, it can be C++, Java, Python, Perl, C#, anything. The best is whatever is in your curriculum, learn that. The goal should be to learn the programming, not programming language. The core of programming in all the language is almost same. So whenever you do project for yourself or whenever you do project for any company, at that time you will learn many other programming language. See, learning programming language is not a big issue, right? You can learn a programming language in days and weeks, but programming is a skill which need months and years to get some expertise on. So focus on programming rather than programming language. The third tip for the beginners is it's not mandatory to go for competitive programming. There are many platforms available such as LeetCode, HackerRank, CodeChef. Many likes programming on these platforms and many other likes programming on the real world projects. The choice is yours. You can practice your programming skills on this platform or you can practice on some real world projects. I personally like real world project because it gives 360-degree aspect of software engineering, not just programming. Of course, programming is involved there. It's a major part, but it involves other aspect of software engineering also. So you don't have to be in a FOMO that competitive programming is must to become a good programmer. The fourth tip, had good command on fundamentals of programming. So be it variables, data types, functions, recursion, conditional logic, and many others. These are building blocks of any programming language. Okay, so at initial days, try to have good commands and good hands-on on these core aspect of any programming so that when we write programs with increased complexity, you don't have to worry on these fundamental aspects. Fifth tip, follow along one end-to-end course on any programming language. It can be a good book on any programming language. It can be a YouTube playlist where we have a step-by-step video tutorials of different aspects of any programming language. It can be a website like Java T-Point or W3 Schools where we have step-by-step like how to learn any programming language, or it can be a paid course also. The idea is we don't have to jump here and there to understand the fundamental aspect of any programming. Follow along that tutorial. So let's suppose you learned some conditional logic. So write some program related to conditional logic. You learned looping, you learned recursion. Okay, so have good hands-on practice there. Just viewing the program or you have watched the video may give you a wrong sense that you can write that program. So my suggestion will be to actually do a hands-on, compile that program, execute that program so that you have full confidence that okay, fundamentals are clear from that course. The next tip is little advanced from the programming world, which is have a hands-on on one web-based project. Okay, so this is internet world. Okay, so web-based project is now a fundamental requirement. Okay, and when you learn any web-based project or when you do any web-based project, you will not just learn one language. It will be a stack of language. So you will learn front-end language, you will learn back-end technologies, you will learn how to interact with database, and multiple programming languages are involved in each aspect of it. So do this step, sixth tip, but when you are fundamentally clear on any programming language. The next tip is practice, practice, and practice. So in my first point, I have told that programming is a game of patience and practice. Okay, so once your building blocks are clear, that looping, conditional logic, data types, and other different building blocks of any programming are clear, try writing programs with little more complexity, and you can increase this complexity week by week. Okay, and you have to follow one routine that, okay, 1 week I will write 2 programs or 3 programs. It's up to you. You don't have to rush. Okay, remember my patience point. You don't have to rush. The next tip, and most underrated tip, and which works even for me as a 10 years of experience in programming, and the tip is take breaks. Many times things will not work according to you, right? You have written a program with completely right logic, it will not compile. Okay, sometimes like you have to rethink the logic again. You are not getting the desired result. Okay, so it requires sometimes a fresh mind or fresh view to your program. You need to sometimes debug, you have to analyze more. So fresh mind works like a charm in programming. Next tip, get ready for silly mistakes. Sometimes you will miss a semicolon, your code will run infinite, you will have a compilation issue, you'll have a runtime issue. It's a part of journey. Don't worry about it, enjoy it. And our last tip in this video is like, learn the concept of modular programming. So modular programming is a very basic and important aspect of any programming. So where we divide a large code, large logic into separate different modules. You can call it as a method in a simple term. Okay, which method will take some kind of input and it will give a desired output. So a large code will be divided into multiple small chunks, and when these all chunks are stitched together in one good sequence, it will give you the right result. So having modularity in programming is good for maintenance, good for development, and good for readability of the code. So these tips that I have shared today for programming or coding is like for beginners. Okay, and there are multiple other aspects related to it. It can be a data structure, it can be algorithms, design pattern, system design, and together with all along with programming is used to make a full-fledged scalable and performant systems. So we are going to make many other videos on all those aspects that we have just talked about in this channel. Please let us know how you are finding our videos useful and what you want to hear us next.